Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. In this video I'm going to demonstrate the integration capabilities of Lula Build into Primavera P6. So I'm going to show you how you can export a fully priced estimate from Lula to Primavera P6, and then I'm going to show you how you can import a P6 schedule back into Lula Build and how to run forecast reports on that scheduling data in Lula. Alright, so I'm inside of a project and I'm going to go to my bill of quantities, where you can see that everything in this bill of quantities has already been priced. So a fully priced estimate contains a lot of information that can be shared with the planning division of a company. For example, there's typically a very similar mapping between your bill items and your activities. So you could already export all of your bill items and automatically create activities for them for your planners. And each of these bill items in Lula Build, if you open them up, contains a worksheet with a full resource breakdown of all of the resources required to actually price this bill item. And once again, if we export this BOQ, we can automatically export all of this resource data for each activity in your project plan as well. Okay, so in Lula Build, each worksheet has a primary production rate that's specified. So we can see that the foundation is laid at a production tempo of 6 cubes per day. And Lula Build allows you to use that production rate to automatically convert your quantities to time units. So if, for example, I want to see how long it's going to take us to do this foundation, I can switch on the applicable column and I'm going to switch on the time component of that measurement. And here we can see that it's going to take us 1 day to complete the foundation. Alright, so Lula will use this information, this production info, to automatically calculate activity durations for the planners that are based on the production rates that the estimator is allowed for. So it automatically ensures parity between your estimators and your planners. Okay, so in order for us to export this BOQ, we can open up the scheduling or the planning tab, action tab in Lula Build, which brings up a bunch of options for us where we can configure what we want to export. So in this case, I want to export to Primavera P6 to the XML format. I want to use my bill measurement to calculate my activity durations, and I'm going to let's round all of my durations to the nearest hour, for example. And the resources to export, we're going to export the top level items in the worksheet, so the resources and the clusters sitting in that worksheet. And let's click the export button, and automatically that's going to export it and download it to your local computer. Okay, so I'm just going to switch over to Primavera P6 and I'm going to import that file that I just downloaded. So I'm going to click File, Import, and I want to import a XML file. So I'm going to browse to the file that I just downloaded. And we can select that it must be in our Lula Build folder. Next, next, and finish. Okay, so that takes a second or two. And there you can see the project has been imported. So I'm going to open this project for us. And automatically here you can see all of the activities of this project, and they correspond to the bill items, and they've got the same order as the bill of quantities with the same headings and groupings as you had in your bill of quantities. So your estimator or your planner can then take these activities and move them around, or you can even split them up if need be. And you'll see for each activity we associated a bit of extra metadata. So there's some custom fields where we logged some values from Lula. So here you can see the Lula ID that corresponds to that bull item, and you can see the production rate that was specified in Lula. So that's just a quick reference for your planner to see what the production rate was of these bull items. So when he does his planning, you can keep that in mind. All right, so we can now schedule these activities. So let's schedule them. And automatically you'll see all of these activities start on the tender starting date, and they've got their correct durations associated with them. That's automatically calculated from your production factors specified by your estimators. Alright, and in Lula Build we've also exported the full resource set for you. So here you can see all of the resources that was used in your estimate is now automatically populated and available in your schedule. And it's actually also been assigned to each activity. So if we open up the details of these activities, you can see that the resources have already been assigned. You can see that the foundation needs a bricklayer, some general labor, a poker vibrator, and some ready mix concrete. All right, so everything's fully set up, and your estimator can now actually go ahead and link these activities up and schedule and do all of these planning in Primavera P6. So I've already done that. So I'm just going to open up the scheduled version of this project. Okay, so here you can see I've taken that same project and I've scheduled the activities out, and we can see the critical path and so forth. All right, so we can now take the schedule and we can import it back into Lula Build. All right, so the estimators often want to see what their quantity distribution looks like so that they can run forecast reports on their materials or on their plant and so forth. Okay, so we can take the schedule and we can export it. So I'm just going to export it to a Primavera XCR file format. Next, and let's just export it to the desktop, close. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to Lula. And in your scheduling tab, you've got the option to export or to import the schedule. So in this case, I want to import a Primavera schedule, and you can choose the frequency of your quantity distribution. So do you want to see your quantities distributed monthly, or do you, for example, want to see your quantities distributed weekly? So in this case, I'm going to say I want to see my quantity distribution weekly, and you can specify whether it must sum up the quantities progressively or whether you just want to see how much of each quantity is used per week. So I'm just going to leave it as progressive, and I want to automatically create some reports that I can use to run forecast reports on. So let's select import. That's the file we want to import, and it takes a second or two to complete the import for us. Right, and here we get a little report. So it gives us this feedback that the import was successful, and it just gives us some metadata. It shows us if there's any differences between activity duration. So I did some rounding, so there is some differences, but here you'll get a little report, and this will make it easy for the estimator to pick up if the planner made any different assumptions than he did. Okay, so we can automatically now switch on some of these reports. So let's say we want to see what the quantity distribution looks like for this project. So here we can see that by the end of week 1, we've already processed 6 cubes of our foundation, and that stays the same. We backfill 10 cubes in the first week. By the end of the second week, we've backfilled 20 cubes and so forth. So for each bull item, you can see what the distribution looks like. Right, so this is not only convenient to see in the bull format, but we can also show this to you in something like the resource scene. So in the resource scene, I now have similar reports. So I can, for example, see what quantity of each resource is needed going forward in this project. So here you can see that I need 0 bricks for the first 2 weeks. In the third week, I'm going to need 2,500 bricks. By the end of the second week, I'm going to have used 6,600 bricks, and so forth. So this is quite convenient for planning and for procurement purposes, but you can also see these same reports for your net amounts or selling amounts. So this is quite useful for cash flow purposes. We can see how much money we're going to be spending on what resource in what period in this project. So this is very valuable information that can now be shared from the planner to the estimator. Alright, so that was a quick overview of the integration between Lula Build and Primavera P6. So as you can see, it's very powerful. It will reduce data duplication and it will ensure consistency between your estimators and your planners. And it will provide your estimators with very, very valuable forecasting and planning information. Okay, that's all for today, and until next time.